The Mariners have added another flamethrower to the pile in Shintaro Fujinami. Joe and I are going to talk about what his addition means to this bullpen, and then we're going to talk about another bullpen addition that was to the Dodgers when they signed Tanner Scott. The Dodgers continue to be the team that is spending the most money in the game, up to $370 million. Joe and I are going to talk about what that means for all of baseball and the Mariners specifically. And then we're going to talk about some important spring training dates that were recently announced before we get going into Peoria. Thank you guys so much for watching episode 158 of the Hit It Here podcast, part of the Bleav Network, the Charles My Zit episode of the podcast. And I'm here with Joe. Joe, how are you?
Why would you dedicate an episode to Charles? He's been nothing but mean to you for the last, 48 hours, 24 hours?
It's true.
It seems like you're just kind of giving in to the man. You know what I mean? I didn't expect a second boot to be licked this episode of the podcast, if you will. It's been a good Sunday. I'll admit, my Rocket League team won the first North American Open for this split of the RLCS. Shout out NRG. I'm pumped. It was a good day for me, right? It was a good day a couple days ago for those who are very interested in the pile, okay? The bullpen arms are stacking up just more and more, okay? I get that the Dodgers have signed every free agent under the sun, but have they added more arms in the bullpen pile than the Mariners have? I don't think so, ladies and gentlemen. I'm so sad. Shintaro Fujinami, okay? It's a guy that, Jake. I think Jake raised the trident and posted about how he wanted him. I want to say Chaos Ball also posted, in 2023, future Mariner. So we've got some foresight in the Mariners community. And Fujinami, like you mentioned, a flamethrower. A guy that came over and was with Oakland and Baltimore in 2023. I Bleav he was with the Mets last year, but never broke the Major League Ball Club. He's had a lot of control issues. Just hasn't really, fully clicked at the Major League level. It just hasn't been that good. Baltimore in 2023 was a bit better than his stint in Oakland. Obviously, he kind of started out his professional career in America as a starter with Oakland and then transitioned to a bullpen role more so later after he just really couldn't figure it out. In Baltimore, in 29 2/3 and 30 games pitched, he pitched to a 4.85 ERA at an 85 ERA plus. He struck out 32 batters and walked 15. So an erratic pitcher, a flamethrower, a guy that probably doesn't have a ton of control. But if there's a team, and we say this about every single arm that gets added to the pile, and a tale as old as time itself, there's a team that can fix him and unlock just all the untapped potential in that arm. It's the Seattle Mariners. Fujinami is a very intriguing arm. If they can somehow turn him into it doesn't even have to be a super quality major league reliever. If this is a guy that is your fifth or sixth reliever out of the pen, if you get that level out of him with his velocity, it can be a very dangerous weapon to have. That being said, does he have enough to kind of stick with the Mariners given his very subpar track record in the MLB?
Yeah, he hasn't been good in the major league so far, but he's the guy that, like you said, can pump up to 100 miles an hour. I think he hit 103 a couple times. He throws the ball hard. 57% of the time in 2023, he was throwing his fastball. Makes sense. It's probably his best pitch, one of his best pitches. 20% of the time he threw his split, and 16% of the time he threw a cutter. He also has a sweeper and a slider, but did not use them that often in 2023. He's a guy with, according to Baseball Savant, the 6th percentile in walk rate. He walks a lot of guys because, like you said, he is erratic. But his fastball velo, 97th percentile, extension, 88th percentile, and his whiff percentage, 77th percentile. Fujinami is a guy that if the Mariners can get him to locate, if the Mariners can just find a way, hey man, maybe stop throwing 103, maybe just throw 100. Just throw 100 instead. Ramp it down a little bit and get it in the zone. And I'm sure no one's ever told him to just throw strikes before, right? It's never happened. I think there's a guy who does make a little bit of sense. In 2024, in AAA, he had in the Puerto Rican Winter League, in 20 and 2/3 innings pitched, he had a 3.05 ERA, but a WHIP of 1.258.
Yeah.
Which once again comes from his walks, which he had 11 of them. So I don't know. Fujinami's a guy who, over his time in America, has not been good, but at the same time, you have to like the potential that you could be getting out of him. And like you said, if he can find a way to be like the sixth guy in that bullpen, that's awesome. I think that all these guys that are in the pile are going to make for a very interesting, I guess, dogfight when we get to spring training. Guys that, like him or whoever else has been added to the pile at this point.
Hang the Danner.
That's right, Hagen Danner. All the other people I can't remember. Like, they all have an opportunity here, and the Mariners bullpen is one of the most wide open spots on the team. I think that in a vacuum, I want the Mariners to go out there and just sign a major league reliever. Somebody that is like been there, done that, has proven that they can do it. Not all these pile guys, but I think the pile guys do make some sense to add. You're filling out your AAA bullpen, and those are guys that in a pinch, because we know how volatile bullpens are. Guys get hurt all the time. Guys are in a slump, whatever. You can just bring somebody up. And if you're able to stash all these guys down in AAA and then bring them up when needed, and hopefully they're working in your system, in your lab, and you're turning into something that you need, then great. That's fantastic for the Mariners. So I think it's a good signing. Obviously, it's not the signing that we're looking for. We're looking for like an Alonso signing or a big trade or something like that. And of course, we just learned that we're getting Fujinami and Hagen Danner and all these other guys. Like, it's not exciting, but it is one that I feel like could be impactful later on this season.
He has options. Hagen Danner has an option. Tyler J also have. All three of the last relievers added to the pile have options. That, to me, is a pretty significant part of kind of what the role that they will play with the Mariners in 2025. Like, Snyder didn't fully come into the bullpen at the beginning of the year. There's guys that were up and down before him. So there's room for opportunity, and if they struggle a little bit, they can go back down and figure something out and then come back up later. Like, that is a lot of these pile arms are just to simply add flexibility to a pen that, you have a long extra innings game. I almost said overtime. I'm going to throw up. An extra innings game where, all right, you got to go send someone down so you have an extra arm for the next day. That's where these guys kind of come into play. But you did say, adding just a regular, normal free agent reliever that's a professional ball player that's been really good in the major leagues could be nice, could be something to do. I don't know if $18 million a year for Tanner Scott as an annual average is necessarily in the Mariners ballpark, but hey, Tanner Scott would have been a really, really good add to the Mariners bullpen because Tanner Scott's a really, really good reliever. Teams pay players that are really good to play for their really good ball clubs. The Dodgers are the entire antithesis vocab for the Mariners so far. And I think it's not just the Mariners. Like, you could look at other teams that I think Fuzzy posted about it on Twitter. It's like the Braves, the Guardians, the Mariners, and like 3 other teams. 6 teams that finished over 500 in 2024 have added 2 free agents. The Braves added Brian De La Cruz and the Mariners added Donovan Solano. Okay. And what? Sometimes you just got to play it up for the bit. Donovan Solano. And we're just sitting here watching everybody, literally everyone, sign with the Dodgers. They're having a party. We didn't get invited. And everyone's just ignoring our invitations to come play for the Seattle Mariners. Maybe rightfully so. Maybe, maybe that's just where we're at. And it's not just the Mariners, it's other teams. Like the Padres offered Roki Sasaki like $3.5 more million in international pool money. And Roki's like, I'm gonna go hang out with my friends, guys. Later, I'm gonna hang with the big guys. I'm gonna hang with the big dogs, the World Series winners. And we're just gonna repeat year after year after year. I don't know if it's a problem. I don't know if I'm on that fence yet. But like, if more people, dude, it's unbelievable how many players have signed with, like, this seems like an unprecedented amount of players heading to the Dodgers in a singular offseason.
It's definitely more than I can remember any other team getting in a single offseason, like you mentioned. And so the Tanner Scott deal, again, has deferred money in it, which I don't necessarily know what the official deferred money is for the entire Dodgers team right now. But the problem,
It's more
in
than the
my
Mariners
opinion,
payroll.
oh, absolutely. In my opinion, the problem with baseball right now is not that it needs a salary cap. It needs a salary floor. And I think that you should not be able to get away with spending less than, I don't know, $125 million a year, in my opinion. Every team should be spending that at least. It needs to have a salary floor to disincentivize tanking. With that being said, obviously there is a soft salary cap with the luxury tax, which teams over the past few years clearly have not cared about. The Mets, the Dodgers, the Yankees, all three of those teams they've gone well over it. But the Dodgers, I believe, are $70 million ahead of any other team in spending for their 2025 roster. It is ridiculous how much money they are spending. So yeah, I don't know what I don't think the cap should be like 150 million or something like that, because if there was a cap, what that does is you could argue that that means the players are getting paid less. And in the end, what I want is for the guys that are actually making the game interesting to be the ones making the money, not the owners. I don't give a damn about how much money the owners are making. I want the players that are on the field, the ones who are literally the ones entertaining us, they should be the ones making the money. And if there's a salary cap, there's a very strong argument to say that, like, they're not going to be able to make, however many $1 million a year. And in defense of the people that don't like that, yeah, nobody really needs $40 million a year. Like, what are you going to do with all that money? I will not see $40 million in my lifetime.
Not with that attitude.
And like, these guys are getting paid $40 million a year, and I don't know. So sure, maybe the players are overpaid. I believe they are the highest paid like contracts in all of sports, right? Is baseball?
I mean, baseball is a very rich sport compared to the NFL specifically. The NBA gets a little bit interesting, but I have some interesting thoughts about NBA contracts. There are players that get like over $20 million a year that I swear to God, they're the 11th man on a team. And I'm like, how are you getting paid $20 million? But that's maybe just my perception of that specific player. Baseball is a very rich sport indeed. Player contracts can be very rich. There's definitely a lot of conversations to be had about club control and arbitration and how that process goes, and like how that can be like service time manipulation. I switched those. Like how that can be impactful. And you're talking about like implementing like a salary floor. Would that not then just like make player contracts more expensive? So teams would just be like, all right, we'll just go give Jim Bob 1 year, $50 million. And then there we go. We pass the salary floor. Happy everybody? Like, would that not just like both sides of your conversation? Salary floor, player contracts get richer because owners and organizations realize they need to hit a threshold, but they don't really want to invest much more in terms of like the product on the field, so they just load it all into one guy. Salary cap at the top, yeah, like player contracts would get smaller more than likely. So like, what's the middle ground? When's the collective bargaining agreement up? After 2026?
I believe so.
Kiss the 2027 season goodbye, because there's probably going to be some wild stuff that happens if there's still this weird discrepancy between the players, the owners, and the league of like, and even like Rob Manfred, should he be the commissioner by that point? Still more than likely. I don't see why he wouldn't be unless he.
I don't remember. He said that once his term's up, he's not doing it anymore.
Okay.
But I don't remember when it's up. It might not be till 29.
Okay. Well, regardless, that era of baseball conversation for the next collective bargaining agreement, I think will be interesting, with lots of conversations surrounding deferred money and like if there's going to be changes to the luxury tax threshold. Like, I really don't have a lot of insight, in my opinion. I've got a lot of just kind of like broad information that I'm not sure what to do with, and a lot of you probably don't know what to do with either, because why is it that the Dodgers can just run a payroll of $370 million and defer half of it because their owner's like this? It's simply stated because their owner is like that. That's simply why. It's no other reason other than the fact that no other owner in the entire MLB wants to operate that way, because we don't know. Is he going to sell the team when all of those deferred money contracts kick in? Maybe. That'd be a rug pull of a century by I
Magic
like
Johnson and
sure whatever ownership group is with Los Angeles. I can't remember his name right now, but like the main guy. I think there's one person that people always attribute to, like how the Mets is what Steve Cohen.
mm-hmm.
Like I feel like there's one name that's usually attributed to the Dodgers. I can't remember it right now, but it's not Magic. Regardless, am I upset that the Dodgers are creating a super team? Arguably, probably the best team that I've ever witnessed as far as pure talent on paper. Could break the win record next year if everything goes right for them. Am I mad at that? Like, not necessarily, but like from a competitive standpoint, like, am I not going to care about the NL West? I don't know. Like the Diamondbacks and the Padres likely could be playoff teams next year and be 30 games out of their own division because of how unbelievably talented that Dodgers roster is. Is it unfair to other teams in their division or around the league that players are choosing to go there? No. The Dodgers are offering them contracts because simply they can. And players are going there because they recognize that they want to win. Sure, are they title chasing? Are they ring chasing? Maybe.
But
like
that's
that's the name of the game.
Should be. Yeah.
That's the name of the game. Like that's what it is. Is it bad for baseball? Is it bad for competitiveness long term? Like a lot of people would argue that like the super team, like the big threes in the NBA kind of had a negative impact on the longevity of that sport. And there's a lot of discussion about how the NBA is unwatchable on TV right now because how much the game has changed, blah, 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 blah. The game of baseball is changing drastically. Has been for a couple years, just like pace of play, new rules being implemented. If they bring in that golden at bat rule or whatever the hell that was about, like, again, that's another like just like kind of like stunt baseball would try and implement to excite fans, excite viewership. There's not nobody, but there's a lot of fans around the league that are probably not excited to watch baseball next year simply because they fully expect the Dodgers to win 120 games and go undefeated in the postseason because they are putting together the best roster that they've ever seen in their entire lifetime. Plain and simple. And it feels like Matilda, if you've seen Matilda. I'm big, you're little. I'm smart, you're dumb. Like, I'm right, you're wrong. And there's nothing you can do about it. They are Matilda's dad. And we are Matilda. So we need Miss Honey to do something to help us figure out our magic powers to go take down the Dodgers in the World Series. Thoughts?
That was potentially, here as we sit on episode 158, the most convoluted metaphor that hit hard. Well done.
Thank you.
Well, I don't know how many people will have understood it, but I'm impressed.
We got there.
We got there. Yeah, I think that there's a lot to be said about, obviously players want to go to the Dodgers because we just watched the Dodgers win the World Series. They have not won less than 98 games since 2018, other than the obviously COVID season. 98 games in the past, 7 years? Like, hello? They're in the playoffs every single year. The Dodgers are the new gold standard of baseball. Mm-hmm. Yes, it was the Yankees for however long. But the Dodgers are the team now where if you want to win, you go to the Dodgers because they represent your best chance at guaranteeing that you get yourself a ring. And why is that? They were willing to spend the money. They were willing to think outside the box with deferred money, where any team could do it. Any team could have started doing this deferred money thing. The Dodgers are just the team that did it. The Mariners could have started doing it, but they're too cheap. Like, there are so many reasons why what the Dodgers are doing, in my opinion, is not a bad thing. It's what the 29 other teams are doing that it becomes a bad thing. Now, there is a tipping point that I feel like when the Dodgers have outspent everybody by so much, it's like, okay. Like, and I feel like with what we saw with the Tanner Scott contract, we're kind of getting there. Like, I'm starting to be like, okay, this is getting ridiculous. Like, I think that every team should be spending as much money as they can because guess what? The Dodgers make a ton of money from their TV deal. They get a ton of they sell out like every single game, and they have one of the best not best fan bases, but one of the most vocal and diehard fan bases in the league. And why is that? It's because they care about their fans and they make sure to put the best product on the field every single season. And 29 other teams around baseball are not doing that. And the Mariners are, like you said, the antithesis of what the Dodgers are. The Mariners are putting the most okay team on the field to maybe squeak into the playoffs, but there are no aspirations after that. Now, of course, when you get into the playoffs, anything can happen when it's like a couple game series like that. But nonetheless, the Mariners have to make it there first. And the team that they've put on the field, when like to go from talking about Shintaro Fujinami and how he could be a good member of the pile to be like, oh yeah, the Dodgers just signed the best reliever on the market. Smile.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's just it almost feels pointless. Like you said, it feels like you're just watching. You're going to be watching the baseball season, just waiting for the Dodgers to be crowned at the end of it, like usual. Like I don't know. It does feel pointless to go into this season expecting more out of the Mariners when they themselves might be thinking, "What's the point? Why?
Sure.
Why should we attempt to get better? Because no one can take down the Dodgers." With that being said, when you look back a couple years ago, and the Mets, they spent, however much money going into 2023, $300 and something million.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't even make the playoffs. That team they just fell apart. And the Dodgers in my opinion, the Dodgers are the first time that I can remember in recent history where you get together basically an all-star caliber team, like where every guy, could all be every single guy could be an all-star. This is the first time I've actually seen it work.
Mm-hmm.
I think back to like when the Blue Jays and the Marlins and the Mets have done it in the past. It all fell apart. They didn't. Most of those teams didn't even make the playoffs. And yet here we sit and we watch the Dodgers, creating the super team. They just won the World Series and they are continuing to add to that. Yeah, why would players not want to go there? I don't know. It sucks to be in this position on January 19th and say, yeah, the Mariners don't have a chance this year. But unfortunately, Joe, that is where we are.
I just can't wait for spring training, man.
Me too.
Just to kind of like fresh start, clean slate, enjoy some good vibes before and those games, the best part about them, they don't matter. Nothing matters in spring training. It's just ball. It's just fun names. Guys wearing 96 on the back of their jersey. Maybe they'll never touch pro ball again, but they might hit a homer, and it's just good vibes. And spring training, yes. You just said, what's the point? To have some fun. Like, there's some entertainment and enjoyment in our lives. And Colton, you mentioned it at the top. The Mariners have posted a graphic detailing some important dates for spring training down in Peoria. Not just Peoria, but I guess also the Grapefruit League as well over in Florida for everyone. Those bums over there. Arizona better. Peoria better. Cactus League better. So what are some of those dates? Do you have it pulled up?
I do, yeah.
Awesome.
So on the 12th of February, pitchers and catchers, that is their official report day. So normally it's been on Valentine's Day, which has been really nice because it's been the only thing that keeps me warm on Valentine's Day is baseball coming back. But also on the 13th, pitchers and catchers will have their first workouts. And then on the 17th, that is when position players will report. And on the 18th of February, that is the first full squad workout. 3 days later, you have the first game in Peoria versus the Padres on the 21st. Now, 3 days after that, I get there for a month. And you know what? You can help support us bringing you all of that content for the entire month that we're going to be down there. Hotel, car, tickets, it's expensive, man. And so Joe and I came up with a cool idea where we're going to have some incentives for if we can raise a certain amount of money to go towards this trip, that we are going to maybe, for example, if we hit $5,000, I'm going to get a Mariners themed tattoo. I don't have any tattoos, and the idea freaks me out. Not a fan of needles, personally. Not a fan. And so, or pain. Not a fan.
Just anything in general. Not a fan.
Not a fan. But that's one of our the things we'll do. Also, if we reach a certain dollar amount, we'll do like a 24-hour live stream during the season. We're still kind of fleshing out what the incentives are going to be. But we have some cool stuff coming your way. That is a GoFundMe link in the description down below. So make sure if you guys do have the means, if you want to help support what we're going to be doing in Peoria and make sure that we can bring you the best content possible, please donate there. So I'll be there on the 24th of February is the day I get there. Joe, are you going to spring training?
You know, I figured it might be time to make my return to Peoria since the last time I was there, the entire world shut down. So maybe I should just run that one back.
Bring some better vibes this time,
if
please.
There's one thing that I can do down in Peoria in spring training is shut down the MLB season again to prevent the Dodgers. Actually, no, the Dodgers won that year. Crap. I was gonna say like maybe stopping the season or cutting it in half would make another Dodgers ring null and void, another Mickey Mouse ring, if you will. But they won that year, so that doesn't make sense. I'm gonna be there on February 28th. I'll be there from the 28th to March 6th. Colton and I will be down there together. Obviously, Colton's there for the whole month. I'm only there for a week, but still gonna be good content there. I don't remember what I said, 2,500. I'm shaving my head, I think is what I said to you.
I think is what you said. Yeah.
And you know, if it so happens that I shave my head while I'm down there during a live stream, whatever, right? Just good content, good fun. You guys were around for our trade deadline stream this past regular season. That was a lot of fun. I shaved my face during that. So something of similar chaotic vibes potentially happening down in Peoria, but I'm excited to be down there. I'm excited to be down there with you. Excited to meet whatever people are down there, maybe at a Target. Who knows, right? It's a pretty high chance of meeting some people down there, so that'll be very exciting. Going back out to the backfields, maybe if we find Lazaro back on one of the practice fields and he's hitting tanks, we're running down a ball. Yeah. We are running down a practice ball. Okay. Guaranteed.
I'm there.
I think that's one of my favorite things. Just like you see a ball flying over the fence and just people scrambling. It's a good time. So I'm excited to be down there. You left off one thing because obviously the timing of the dates leads to us. But something that I will miss, which I'm sad about, the spring breakout game where, all the top prospects, maybe not all, but there's a handful that are picked. It was introduced last year. That is on Pi Day, 3.14, March 14th, spring breakout game. I think Sane just starts that game.
He might, him or Ryan Sloan. I think that'd be a lot of fun to watch. Yeah, that one's going to be in Goodyear. I believe it's versus the Reds is what that game is going to be. In 2024, I was actually supposed to be down there for last year's. And we were all there. And you might have even seen me in some of the Mariners stories on Instagram. I was
Ty Pete and stuff, right?
Ty Pete, right? Yeah. I was down there, kind of, getting autographs from those guys, and I was in some of the pictures and whatnot. But that game, after an hour or so, it was pouring rain. The one day it rained that entire trip, pouring rain, and they eventually decided to call it after about an hour of being in a delay. And I was so sad because then they didn't play it again for another 2 weeks, and I was no longer down there. But damn it, this time I'm down there for a month.
You're not gonna miss it this year.
Missing it. But yeah, again, that's probably the game that I'm the most excited for. When I'm down there, I'm super pumped to go see all the prospects and stuff. So that's gonna be a lot of fun. But yeah, man, spring training, we have a lot of content planned. It's gonna be a lot of fun. And again, if you guys do want to support us, we have that link in the description down below. It would really truly mean the world to us because this is going to be an expensive ass trip. I don't know how we're going to pull it off, but we're going to do our best to bring you guys that content. But that is going to do it from us here on episode 158 of the Hit It Here podcast, the Martin Roylance episode of the podcast. And go Mariners.